this July 1st meeting of the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Commission to order. Thank all of you for being here. We appreciate your attendance. At this time, I'm going to ask Bill, if he would, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call, please, Ms. Susan.
Joe McPherson,
Here.
Andrew Blanchard.
Here.
Dusty Goodrich.
Here.
Bill Hogan.
Here.
Gene Reynolds.
Here.
Alvin Terry.
Here. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt the June 3rd commission meeting minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? That agenda item is adopted. Approval of the July 1st agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's approved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
July 1st agenda is adopted. We have a real pleasure to recognize Representative Tony Bacala and recognize him this morning. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair, or Mr. Vice Chair. This past year, we were able to pass a licensing restructure that we had been working on since I got here. It was attempted in 2018. We weren't successful. And so we began the process from then on to this year to see if we couldn't get it passed and be able to generate some revenue for our department that was operating in the red for the last six years. One of the big challenges was to pick the right author. You being a past senator and Gene being a past state rep, you know how important that is. That is the key to passing any bill. And so when I thought about it, one name came up. And I had the pleasure of working with this man in the legislature. So the first thing I knew that he does is he does his homework. And if he gets behind a bill, he dedicates 100% of his efforts to get it passed. And so this morning, I'd like to recognize the person who I was fortunate enough to get to run with our bill, Representative Tony Bacala. I don't know if he has any regrets about that, because he didn't realize how monumental the challenge was, but it certainly has meant a lot to this department. We could not have passed this bill without Tony, because of his ability to be able to work the House on both sides of the aisle. We were able to pass this bill and salvage a majority of what our revenue source would be. So I'd like to present him a plaque that reads, for your exceptional service and dedication during the 2021 Louisiana legislative session. This plaque is from the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Commission. And that's presented to State Representative Tony Bacala, a good friend of mine.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Don't go too far. We've got something else we want to give you. Okay. This is something to keep your notes in and remind you of all the hard work you did for us, and maybe give you the idea that the next time we come, you might say no. Okay, Tony? And something that you can wear proudly on behalf of the LDWF. We certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate all that y'all did, and I didn't come. Obviously, I'll tell you just what I said when we opened this debate up in the House. Sometimes good government doesn't look like, fiscal responsibility sometimes requires that you do things like restructuring wildlife and fisheries fees that are 20 years old, haven't been raised for 20, or on the commercial side for almost 40 years.
And the fact that we're able to raise these fees frees up general fund dollars, state general fund, to do the work of government otherwise. So we're freeing up dollars that would necessarily go to wildlife and fisheries, to build roads, pay teachers, whatever you want to say within the budget. So this is a good government bill, and brings us again after 20 years to try to get closer to a user pay system, which is how wildlife and fisheries has always acted. So I was proud to carry it, but I assure you it was I'm kind of the front man, but it was the behind the scenes work by all the wildlife and fisheries and the House staff that actually made it happen. And I'll just add one more thing. I wasn't Jack's first choice as author, even though he won't say that. He'd already been turned down. So I was at least number 2, but I think number 3, they hadn't admitted it yet. But anyway, appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Representative Bachler, on behalf of the commission, we really appreciate your heavy lifting and your colleagues as well. All right, thank you, sir. I want to get behind this picture here.
I'm coming, guys.
Mr. Chairman, we have another presentation.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, Mr. Bachler had kind of it hinted to the idea that this isn't done alone. And though we had a great deal of support from y'all, from the NGOs and the industries and stuff to help us with this bill, a lot of the stuff's kind of done behind the scenes. And so one person we'd like to thank today is Mr. Tyler Bosworth. Would you please come here, Mr. Bosworth? Mr. Bosworth is the guy who was responsible for putting this thing into law and dealing with the, how many? 179 amendments. So we'd like to say to Tyler Bosworth, the most amended bill in the history of the Louisiana legislature, House Bill 691, 2021 legislation.
We came out with 16.5 million. That's not bad.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Bosworth.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah,
have
Mr.
one
Secretary.
more presentation that is really important.
For 16.5, take your time.
Yes, sir. This is the 2021 Todd Roberts Achievement Award recipient. The Todd Roberts Achievement Award recognizes a volunteer instructor that has made significant and outstanding contributions to the state hunter education program over a period of years. It's given out annually by the Hunter Education Program to a single volunteer instructor out of roughly 1,000 active instructors. Normally, the selected instructor is recognized in front of his peers at the annual Hunter Education Volunteer Workshop. However, this year's workshop was held virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We felt that we were not adequately able to recognize the outstanding contributions of this year's award winner on a webinar. Instead, we're taking the opportunity to utilize a few minutes of the commission's time in order to recognize this individual properly. This year's award winner has been a devoted instructor for over 20 years. Although he has been wheelchair bound for most of his life, he has not let this slow him down in the least. For his entire LDWF volunteer career, he has been the lead instructor for the Ascension Parish teaching team, and over the years has taught more than 100 Hunter Ed courses, training 5,000 students and volunteering 1,200 hours of his time. Additionally, he has worked closely with the Ascension Parish 4-H team for many years, providing coaching, instruction, and support for the shooting sports community in his parish. He is truly an inspiration and can serve as a great example of determination and passion, not just to volunteer instructors, but to all of us. For his long time and significant contributions to LDWF, his hunting community, and the sportsmen of Louisiana. At this time, I would like to recognize this year's Todd Roberts Award winner, Mr. Thad Bello.
Y'all want to move this?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this time, we'll move on to the enforcement report. Major Skinner.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the commission. For the month of June, we had 14 boating incidents, 6 injuries, and 5 fatalities, 542 written citations, 412 written warnings, and 14 public assists. I have a brief synopsis of some cases that were made last month. Enforcement agents cited an Alexandria man in Plaquemine Parish for failing to comply with charter guide regulations, violating tuna regulations, and failing to have a recreational offshore landing permit. Agents were on a JEA patrol with NOAA when they stopped the vessel in Red Pass for a license and creel check. During the inspection, agents learned that the vessel captain was on a charter with 6 paying customers without a current U.S. Coast Guard captain's license, Louisiana charter guide license, or proof of insurance. Additionally, the captain was in possession of 2 yellowfin tuna without the required HMS permit or Louisiana's free recreational offshore landing permit. LDWF requires all charter fishermen to have a U.S. Coast Guard captain's license, an LDWF charter boat fishing guide license, and proof of at least $300,000 in liability insurance, all in their possession while on the water. In addition to the criminal fines and possible incarceration, the captain faces civil restitution totaling $1,675 for the replacement value of the legally taken fish. The fish were seized and donated to a local charity. 4 men were cited in Plaquemine Parish for possessing over the limit of red snapper, taking red snapper during a closed season, and failure to keep saltwater fish intact. Agents were on patrol on a JEA patrol with NOAA when they stopped the subject in the Mississippi River near Venice to conduct a license and creel check. During the inspection, the subjects were found to be in possession of 7 red snapper and 14 red snapper fillets. This put the subjects at 14 total red snapper, which is 6 over the daily limit. Additionally, it was discovered that the fish were caught on a Thursday, which is a closed season. In addition to the criminal fines and possible incarceration, the subjects face civil restitution for the illegally taken fish in the amount of $200.83. Those fish were also donated to a local charity. Agents cited a Gibson man in Terrebonne Parish for hunting deer during a closed season and hunting from a public road. Agents received an anonymous tip about a subject harvesting a doe on a public road on June 1st. The agents contacted the subject, who admitted to the violations. Deer was seized and donated to a local charity. The subject faces civil restitution totaling $1,624.61 for the replacement value of the illegally taken deer. And this concludes the report, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just want to acknowledge and thank your officers for the job that they do. Because over the weekend, I got a text from a cousin of mine, and I'll share it with you. My good friend and I were offshore snapper fishing, and his son was involved in an incident with a game warden here at Sycamore Point. The family would like to thank him personally for professionally handling the situation. Would it be possible to get his name? So what I did was I called the secretary, and they found out it was a Lieutenant Mitch Darby that made the stop. And rarely in law enforcement, whatever type it is, do you get a thank you. And that's one of those great moments where a guy handles something professionally. The days of professional courtesy are long gone, in my opinion, being in law enforcement. It's how fast can I write you up to get to the next guy? And that this department doesn't have that mentality, which is clearly stated in the message that I had received. And on a second note, the secretary and I, there was an incident around Henderson where another guy ended up getting issued a summons, but still handled professionally, and wanted to thank the department for not running him through the mud or treating him like a convicted felon, but treating him as a human being. And that speaks volumes for this department when there are racial issues in the community and a ton of other things going on. Diversity is a big topic these days, and the department continues to do their job through their law enforcement division, professionally handling these situations. And I wanted to personally say thank you for the efforts that y'all have done, because it comes back to us on a daily basis. What a wonderful job you guys are doing.
We certainly appreciate you taking the time to mention that. Thank you very much
Yes,
for
sir.
recognizing us. We appreciate it.
And on behalf of the entire commission, I think we echo Commissioner Guidry's sentiments.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate that.
Next item on the agenda is our waterfowl biologist, Mr. Larry Reynolds, with review of resolution on waterfowl breeding grounds funding and announcement of a request for proposals.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of
morning,
the
sir.
commission. I'm here this morning to officially announce an RFP for the use of our statutory dedicated funding for waterfowl habitat work on the breeding grounds for the next 3 years. Specifically, state statute says an amount equal to 10% of the fees collected from the sale of hunting licenses shall be dedicated by the commission to the development and preservation of breeding grounds for migratory waterfowl. The funds to be expended for such purposes through Ducks Unlimited or under the discretion of the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Commission. Over the last 3 years, that has averaged about $270,000 per year. Now, recently passed legislation, those 179 amendments that we've just talked about, changes the way this work is being funded in the future. But for the next 2 fiscal years, this is the way this money is going to be generated and allocated. And so we have decided to ask for 3-year proposals using that $270,000 as guidance for potential available funding, and proposals compliant with the resolution that y'all passed and signed last month. Now, over the years, we have funded a variety of conservation activities with this money, and that has often led to contentious discussions in trying to compare very different proposals. And the purpose of this resolution was to try to improve that. And specifically, the resolution asks that the organization seeking this funding provide a minimum contribution equal to the amount of their request, to be used solely to purchase through fee title or permanent conservation easements breeding waterfowl habitat in the prairie pothole region, prioritized according to the results from Prairie Habitat and Prairie Pothole Joint Venture maps of duck breeding densities and Louisiana harvested band recovery data. And be it further resolved that the indirect rates for this work be consistent with NAWCA funding, North American Wetland Conservation Act funding guidelines corresponding to the years of the grant submittal. That's currently 10% or a specific rate that these organizations have negotiated with the NAWCA Council. Now, last month when we talked about this resolution, I showed you these duck density maps from the Prairie Pothole Joint Venture here in the United States, where the red, green, and yellow have the highest duck nesting densities. And then also from the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture in Canada, these same maps. And as you saw in the final reports given by our current contractors, they are already using these maps to prioritize their conservation work with our funding. And then I also shared with you a reanalysis of the last 30 years of banding data from the Prairie Pothole region, showing the connection with these particular geographies with Louisiana. Specifically, we calculated a probability that a duck banded in these geographies would be recovered in Louisiana. And they're on that list by that probability. Until we get better information, like maybe from the number of GPS, GSM transmitter studies that we're doing right now, we feel that these duck density maps and this banding data is the best information for us to prioritize our spending on breeding habitat work. And so what we've done is as of today, we're issuing an RFP asking for 3-year proposals conforming to the resolution due to Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries by July 30th. These organizations will present those proposals to this commission at your August 5th commission meeting. And then a funding decision by the commission, because this is at your discretion, at the September 2nd meeting. And so that will go out via press release today. All of our past contractors are already aware of the dates and the resolution that you passed last month. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Yes, Commissioner McPherson.
Larry, I don't know what I missed, but you were a little bit cryptic talking about, I think you said something changed in the legislature
Correct.
that would affect this after 2 years,
Correct.
but we're doing a 3-year proposal.
Yes.
Will it affect the 3-year proposal if it changes after 2 years?
What we do every year, Commissioner McPherson, is we amend the contract after each year. In other words, the contract that we're going to write when you make your funding decision in September will be based on, thank you. You're welcome. He's got my back here. Will be based on the license fees that we collected during the 2020-21 year. Well, then the second fiscal year of this contract, the legislation goes into effect on June 1st. But there won't have been any collection of revenue under the new rules. And so the second fiscal year will operate under the existing statute. And then we do a contract amendment for that amount because we have no idea how much money that's going to be. And so we wait for that calculation to amend the contract in the second year. In the third year, the duck stamp prices will have changed. The way that money is allocated will be known, and we will have an estimate of that. And so we will amend the contract a second time in year 3 using the new rules passed in HB 691.
Yeah, I'm a little bit slower than some folks. What was House Bill 691 and what did it change in the legislature?
Mr. McPherson, Brian McClinton, thank you all. The HB6, so currently 10% of all licenses is dedicated. The language is in the presentation. Under the new the bill that was just passed, we talked about earlier, instead of 10% of all hunting license sales, 50% of the Louisiana Duck Stamp Fund may be used on the Prairie Pothole region in Canada. So currently it shall be used. It was amended to where it's may. So y'all have the discretion to continue to use it, or you have the discretion to not use it if you so choose. So, but it's going to be, instead of 10% of all hunting licenses, the duck stamp is $10 is going to go to the duck stamp on every duck stamp that's sold. 5 will be spent in Louisiana as it currently is, and then 5 will be dedicated to be used in the breeding grounds in Canada, should y'all choose.
So that freed up hunting license sales back to our.
Yes, sir.
operating fund.
Yes, sir. A lot of things that we did within the bill was to try to make users support what their passion was. So that was one of the things, is a lot of people who squirrel hunt or rabbit hunt are right now paying for a breeding ground. Well, now it's going to be the waterfowl hunters are going to be supporting, the waterfowl program.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ricky Moses, our inland fisheries biologist, received a report on the Lake Bistineau Barrier Project.
Good morning, Chairman Smitco, Commissioners. Let me see if I can get. Larry left it up here. I don't know how to. He left me on a. Sorry about that. We went over this morning and Larry messed up my my view that I thought I was going to be seeing there. Thank you all for having us today and allowing me to give you all a little bit of information. I'm going to give you all a short report on what I know about the Lake Bistineau Barrier Project. If y'all, I'm sure y'all are aware. If you're not, we had several weeks ago, there was an accident up there and there was a loss of life, and it kind of brought all of this kind of to the forefront. I will say in my discussion, numerous discussions I've had with DOTD over the last several weeks, they have been working for some time now on barrier projects, and it's not just needed for Bistineau. It's I'm going to give you some more information on that, but there's a number of structures that need some additional work done on them. Just so everybody knows, Bistineau is located southeast of Shreveport, a few miles in Webster, Bienville, and Bossier parishes. It's a very long, narrow lake covered in cypress trees, approximately 15,000 acres, slightly over 15,000 acres. So it's one of our, our larger lakes up in that part of the state. I wanted to spend a few minutes here and just kind of give you all an idea of actually the Bistineau Dam and the control structure. I don't have a pointer. You can see the long road that goes across on the north side of the structure there. That is a new bridge. They call it a new bridge, even though it's been there for probably 20 years now. It's a concrete structure there. Immediately below it there, you can see the water flowing over the pier, or the concrete weir there. That's what you're seeing where the water's flowing over there. That's approximately 1,200 feet long. On the western end of it, you can see there's another structure there that was part of the old bridge that was left in place when the new bridge, or when that old bridge was decommissioned. It was left in place as a public fishing pier there. Immediately adjacent to it, there is built into the current, or into the concrete structure there is 12 drawdown gates. They are 6 feet by 6 feet. They've got mechanical lifts on them. And that's how the department or DOTD, if we request drawdowns, that's how we get the water out of the lake. The weir is in place there, and the only time, it's to maintain the concrete weir, the entire 1,200 feet there is to maintain the level in the lake at a certain point, certain MSL. I kind of wanted to include a few pictures of this structure and the area around the structure, so you'd have a little idea of I guess what's taking place there. This is a boat actually setting in the lake on the upstream side of the concrete weir there. The water level at this point is, obviously 12 to 18 inches low. In the background there, you can see the water flowing through the gates. Apparently this picture was taken while the lake was being dewatered for a drawdown. So you can see there's very little, danger at this point, or when the water is at this level. Okay, this is on the downstream side. Obviously the gates are closed. You can see those on the left-hand side of your screen there. You get a picture of some of the end gates there. They're closed. One of them actually has a seal leaking, but it's minimal. There's no water going over the spillway. So, downstream is you walk around out there, there's no water there at this point. Here you can see there's probably, just a few inches of water flowing over the spillway. This is a picture, same picture of the previous slide, except now you have a little bit of water there. This can drastically change. This is another picture of the same area. This picture is taken, whoever took the picture was actually standing on the structure where the concrete structure where the gates are mounted. That's one of the mechanical lifts you see there in the picture that is used to raise those gates. But here there's several feet of water going over the spillway. And this creates a situation where if you go over the spillway or I guess come from the downstream side, either one, this is another picture in that same situation there. You can see in this one a little bit better, see the bowl that's created there. It's it's a situation there that when the water spills over these low head structures or low head dams here, that, there's a bowl there that, is a pretty dangerous situation. If anyone ends up in that area, they essentially they become trapped in that area. It just puts you in there and you can't get out. I did want to point out, if you'll look on the right-hand side of that screen, as far as you can see down, you see giant salvinia piled up there that has flowed over the spillway during high water, or does flow over the spillway during high water periods. So there's I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but you can't just put any type of barrier out there, because this salvinia weighs about 40 tons, per acre weight of salvinia. So it has to, whatever barrier is used there is going to have to allow this to go over it or under it or something, because you can't hold that much salvinia weight back. I just throw this picture in here because this is the lake was at record high. Here's 9 foot. If you can see, the water's bumping up against the new bridge there. I think they said the water was 9 feet here. So, the dangerous situation that I've been talking about, it's really not there now. I mean, you can pass over this structure at this point, safely in a boat, relatively safely. Okay, now I'm gonna go over a few specifics. Everything I'm gonna tell you from this point on is directly is information that I received directly from DOTD. I've talked with them at least weekly over the last 3 weeks or so. As late as this morning, I received a call from them this morning. I'm gonna mention here in a minute, but RS 38 tasked DOTD with the responsibility for safety and maintenance of these 19 dams. They're listed specifically in RS 38. There's structures on all of these dams. Bistineau is listed in this list. All of these structures are similar to Bistineau in that they do have a spillway involved. However, they're different lengths. There's a lot of differences between all of those. DOTD has been, recently, they have assessed every one of these structures on the need for a barrier, signage, and what they can do to improve safety on these. They provided that information to me. Of these listed, there was only 5 of these that are listed that have what they classified as adequate barriers in place. I'm not exactly sure, what those barriers include. I know some of them I'm familiar with. It's just a cable on floats out in front of the structures. But they are actively investigating, DOTD is actively investigating the needs. They're looking at what kind of types of barriers that are available that they can use, what each of these, need in place. They're also looking at, how they're going to, install these things, where they're going to install them, various aspects of the dam safety for each of these. I did receive a call this morning from DOTD. They are moving forward on a barrier signage and all for Lake Bistineau. Now, they do not know at this time, exactly what type of structure they're going to put out there. And one of the main issues is the salvinia and the logs and stuff that are going to be, they're going to have to work to avoid catching at that location. Such a high flow area. I will say that, the department, we have relayed to DOTD that we're here and that we're willing to assist them in, any way that we can. And essentially, that's all I have. I'd be willing to try to answer any of your questions at this time, if anybody has any. Thank you.
Yes.
You said that 5 of those structures that they identified as got barriers. And you mentioned the salvia. I thought you was gonna go into them before. Does the cable and buoy system not work where you have salvia?
The problem is, yeah, that's correct. You're going to have some way to, most of where they're using the cable and buoy, the cable is actually at the water surface. It's got buoys on, just floats, so it's too close to the surface. And even, you get some sag in the middle. These cables are big and heavy. You get some sag in the middle. So where you get a high flow of salvinia, I know there's a cable system on Saline Lake in not Saline Larto, but in Saline in Natchitoches Parish. And it does. However, the way that structure is located, it's off of the main channel. So we just, they just monitor it. It's not, you don't get near the flow of salvinia you do at like Bistineau. Bistineau is, is right on the main, main channel in the lake there. So, so that's what's at Saline, the cable. But yes, there's concerns that, that's going to cause some serious issues. I don't even know that you can keep it there when you start talking about the flow rate of salvinia. If it's just a cable at the surface of the water.
What are the other 4 lakes have that they said had barriers?
I don't know exactly. I'm just familiar with Saline. I'm not real sure what they have. I'm sure some of those are the cable, just cable with a float. But I don't know that all of them are. They've recently done some work on Darbone, so I'm not sure what kind of system they put in place up there, barrier system.
I know we don't want to take on any additional liability that we're not supposed to take on, but we are in the aquatic weed control business. We are in the boating safety business. And I don't know exactly how they define safety under RS 38,
yeah.
what they're referring to there. I don't know if they're talking about dam integrity as opposed to boating safety.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to say. I do know that it says something about downstream. So I think they're talking about dam integrity and downstream.
I know Cole's listening, so I'm sure he'd be happy to research that for us.
Yeah.
I think it would be good if there's 5 of those that you think's got the cable and system on it, then it'd be good if we had some idea of talking to our field biologists and stuff that monitor that stuff. Does it work in some areas? Is it a problem in other areas? What's the differentiation with all of that? So we'd be familiar with.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I will say that DOTD has done a lot. They've done that. I mean, there's, like I said, in their assessment, they had a lot of that information there.
Well, let's get a follow-up on that so we're familiar with it also, if you would. Didn't we have a more exhaustive list of spillways and dams than this?
Yeah, I've got that information. I didn't know that we wanted to go into that. There's 708 structures. There's a comprehensive list. We didn't gather that. DOTD's actually got it, but there's 708 structures in Louisiana. I can tell you that their list says that in 40 of those structures, the state of Louisiana is listed as the owner in some capacity. The federal government owns 32 of those, and then local governments own 65 of those structures, of those 708. And the rest of those are private owners. And all of these don't propose or don't, are not risk, or they're not high, they're not high hazard areas. And a lot of them are literally ponds, farm ponds, dams and structures and things like that on this list. But that was the breakdown they gave me.
I guess a really pertinent question would be, out of those 780 or whatever you said, how many of them are under the control or jurisdiction of Wildlife and Fisheries? Any? That was a question.
What I understand,
There's none of them under our.
I don't think none of those are under our control or jurisdiction. From what I understand, I think, I don't think any of them are, to my knowledge. I mean, I can follow up on that, but it was my impression that we were not.
Okay, well then, unless you come back and correct it, that'll be the public answer that they're not under our control or jurisdiction.
Okay.
It was on Bistineau, and I hope that was passed on to DOTD if that's their jurisdiction. I know Commissioner.
Though they know.
Real interested
Yeah,
in it.
yeah. I've talked
But there
with.
was an NGO that had contacted me saying that they were concerned about that youth that got killed was a member of their organization, had been an award winner for their organization and all. I don't know if you saw that email.
I saw
passed
the
on.
email.
But if we would make sure the DOTD gets that, please. So we can,
Yeah.
so at least with the interest and the concern up there in that area
Okay.
that's addressed in the most expedient way possible.
Okay. Chairman, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. It just seems to me that the float system, instead of using the floats to float the cable, you could have an apparatus on either side that floated commensurate with the water level, and the cable would rise with that. And I sketched something out, but it is appalling to me that such a dangerous situation, looking at these pictures, there's not one sign. Signs are cheap. And I don't know when DOTD started doing their assessment, but it doesn't take long to
Yeah,
figure out, wow, this-
Their assessment and work on this dam safety was going on actually prior to the incident that occurred up there. I mean, this is an
Well,
ongoing
it
situation here.
it's not
I do know
difficult to put out a sign. And traveling you know, we're not as stark in our warnings. When you travel in other countries, bad spots in roads, there'll be a sign and, or several signs, and there's silhouettes like of a man, a woman, a child. And when you come to a bad curve, this sign might have silhouettes of 6 men, 2 women, and 3 children. And that's how many people have died at that curve. And it makes you do what you're supposed to do. I know in South Louisiana, certainly we have a tendency to see a challenge or a dangerous situation and say, here, hold my beer. But we have to get the point across, and putting any kind of sign up is better than nothing. And it is a cheap fix. I hope you convey that to DOTD in your conversations with them. There is no excuse for having a hazard that great and having no warning whatsoever and having it result in such a tragedy.
Madam Chair.
Sir.
Madam Chair. I have a question.
Secretary?
I'd like to maybe suggest something to the commission. You as a commission could put together some letter to DOTD recommending that they move forward on this as soon as possible, so before somebody else
Yes, sir.
experiences the same thing. And then and also request from them what progress they're making and to keep you informed with that, so that we don't drop the ball on this thing. And we'll certainly follow up with them to make sure they don't drop the ball. I don't know how long they've been studying it, but it's time to do
What
something.
time to stop studying and start
Yes.
acting?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Secretary, that's a wonderful suggestion, and I would ask staff to please prepare that letter for my review and members of the commission's review, and we can send that out immediately. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Reynolds.
I just want to say thank you. I reached out to DOTD and I reached out to Patrick, different ones in here, about getting on this issue. Over the years, there's been several people that have been injured, and I think there have been some deaths in the past, not too distant past. But a lot of folks have gone over that thing, and if you're not familiar with that area, that whole lake, when you get up to this one area and the lake is high, you can get sucked in there pretty good within about 30 or 40 yards. And unless you can get back and crank your engine, because the trolling motor is not going to save you. If you get back there and crank your engine, you're going to have a tough time. And, and these 2 boys that went up there, they just got way too close, and it takes over. So with that bridge there, I think the signage along that bridge, which would be a 40 to 50 yard little space there, a dead zone, if you will, I think that would go a long way in keeping people out, because even these experienced people that have been on that lake all these years I've known people to slip up there. And matter of fact, there was a cousin that went over it, and he was just really lucky that he didn't get his boat turned over, and both of them could swim pretty good, but he knew better, but he still got up there. So anyway, just my 2 cents worth. Thank y'all. I appreciate the attention you're giving on this particular issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Garrett with a report on the 21 regular legislative session.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I did not prepare a presentation for y'all this go around because I kind of had a wrap-up presentation the last time, but I did want to seize this opportunity to address some maybe misconceptions of the public and offer some clarity for what House Bill 691 did, which is, of course, the license restructure. So I want to start off with personally thanking Representative Bacala for the effort he did. I know that we recognized him earlier, but personally, thank you very much for the time and effort that you put into that. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention Senator Ward, Rick Ward, who carried it on the Senate side, And also, I know that Mr. Bosworth got an award, but Ms. Robin Stadler put in a lot of work on that, and Mr. Tyler McLeod on the Senate side, who's sitting in the back. Certainly all the legislative staff had a lot of heavy lifting. And in addition to those two, Ms. Sue King, who retired, put in a lot of work in the 2018 iteration of the recreational bill and gave us a great framework to work from. So just wanted to make sure that she got recognition as well. With all that said, there has been, since the bill was finalized, there has been a lot of questions coming to us from the public. Just wanted to use this opportunity to kind of clear up maybe some of the misconceptions. The recreational license changes go into effect June 1st, 2022. So they are not in effect now. They will not be in effect for this year. We recently did a press release saying your hunting and fishing licenses expired yesterday. We are going to a 365 from date of purchase model. Again, that does not go into effect until June 1st, 2022. So for this license year, they will be run on the fiscal year. Obviously, we did a lot of consolidation of privileges with this. All your gear licenses for fishing will be now included in your basic or saltwater. Lifetime licenses, they are not going away. If you have a lifetime license now, you get to retain those privileges that you paid for. You will have those privileges for the duration of your life. If you have a standalone hunting license, you will retain hunting license privileges. Standalone fishing license, the same, fishing privileges. If you have a combo, you're actually getting the benefit of the additional gear licenses. We're going to include those into your existing combo license at no additional fee. You need not do anything to get those. When the bill becomes effective, those will be included as part of your lifetime license. We did consolidate the infant, youth, and resident adult licenses into a $500 resident lifetime combo license. Again, that becomes effective June 1st, 2022. You will be able to get a lifetime license. It will be the same price as it is now for a resident lifetime license. It will be a combo license. The senior licenses will increase to $100 and will be available for people who are 65 and older. It is still available. Let me go on with some just annual senior licenses and retired military. If you achieve the age of 60 by the time this bill is effective, before June 1st, 2022, you will be eligible for that $5 annual license. You will be eligible for that for the rest of your life. If you turn 65 as of June 1st, 2027, that license will be available to you, but it will be $20. The youth license, there will be a youth license now. That is a new thing. It will be $5. It will only be necessary for those youths who are hunting deer or turkey. It will also allow them to engage in trapping activity, and it will serve as their application fee for any youth lottery hunt on wildlife and fisheries managed properties. Disabled veterans licenses are $4. We established a way for people to donate to a fund. Even though they will be purchasing a $4 license, they will not be charged a thing. We will invoice our Wildlife and Fisheries Foundation, where a fund will be created. That license will be purchased on behalf of disabled veterans. We will still be able to draw down federal matching funds because we are getting a $4 fee. It will not be charged to the disabled vet himself or herself. I think that's kind of the high points of the recreational licenses. Boat registration, we've done away with registration by the foot. We are now registering by class. That is effective of November 15th of this year. It will be, your registration will be good for a period of 3 years from your date of registration. We will dedicate the revenue that we get from that to treating aquatic plants into that fund, and that will be generating $5 million annually for us to address giant salvinia and the other aquatic plant issues that we have. For the commercial licenses will be effective for the 2022 license season. That starts on the calendar year. We start selling those licenses on November 15th of this year, and that's when this license becomes effective. Half of any increase to a license will be assessed for the 2022 license year. It will remain at that level for 2022 and 2023. For license year 2024, the additional half of whatever increase or adjustment was made will then take effect. So there will be a phase-in, a 3-year phase-in period for all these commercial license fees. And so for the next 2 years, they will be half of what they will eventually become in 2024. Finally, some new commercial licenses that I wanted to bring to your attention. Hunting guides are now required to have a license. That will be effective for the 2022 license year. I anticipate bringing a notice of intent to you all to define what is hunting for hire activity and who is a hunting guide. Additionally, freshwater for hire charter fishing now requires a license similar to what saltwater charter guides have. I think the law specifically designates who those people are, but I did want to mention that that is a new license that will be in effect for the 2022 license year. Those are kind of the high points and some of the questions that we've received a lot from the public. So I just wanted to highlight those. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
What license you said comes in effect 11/15/21?
So all commercial licenses
Commercial, okay.
and boat registration
I got you.
have effective dates for the 2022 license year, and we start selling those a little bit before.
I understand.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your time.
Do we have any public comments? Any public comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it's not in public comment, but I need to mention something in other business if we could,
Yes.
at the
Commissioner,
proper time.
Go right ahead. You can go ahead.
We ready?
I don't think we have any public comment.
All right.
Before Commissioner Blanchard does that, I did want to notify you, we did receive a public comment, the email portal that's in your package from Mr. Will Hildebrand regarding whitetail deer hunting on Richard K. Yancey.
Yes, I saw that. I believe the rest of the commissioners did as well.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Blanchard.
All right, Madam Chair, as we all know, we just closed the spring season for shrimp season, which is going to happen tomorrow at sunset. And to reopen the fall season, the soonest that we could get it open would be after our commission meeting, which is set on August 5th. If the data shows that we can open sooner, we possibly have to call a special meeting for the commission to set the season. So I just wanted to bring that up, where we may have to, call a special season, special opening to do. Because the sooner, if we meet on the 5th, as soon as we can get the white shrimp season open, would be on the 8th, right there. But if the data is supporting to an early opening, we should open it back, to the commercial fishermen, because they already had a really short season this spring right here. So
Yes.
and that's it.
Alrighty. No problem. As soon as we would be notified, I'm certainly ready to do that.
The chairman can call a special meeting at her request and give 24 hours notice to the members, or 4 members can petition for a special meeting, but
Yes,
that-
and we'll,
certainly
as soon as Peyton or whoever lets me know that the data supports an opening, we will open it, I assure you. But we'll have a meeting to vote,
Okay.
all right? Was it someone else got a comment? Anything further? Yeah, we're adjourned.